Green Bay Day to Day. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Beefy Shits. Beef Shits. Beefy Bitch. And we're just getting right into this one. This is the one right after the Super Bowl. As you probably well know, the Rams won in a close one by a field goal. Cooper Kupp was MVP. Final score was 23-20. But boy, I mean, the Bengals had it in hand for quite some time. But then they committed a couple of penalties that reset the downs for the Rams, and Cooper Kupp catches the game-winning pass, so he's the MVP. Congratulations to Cooper Kupp. Congratulations to LA and the Rams and all that fun stuff. You'll have to forgive me. I'm sorry. I just blasted the shit out of my abs, and I cannot catch the breath of me. I've been sitting here for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, just trying to not deep inhale every time I say a couple of words. So Burrow got sacked 7 fucking more times for a total of 70 on the fucking season. All that punishment, and they didn't walk away with the championship. It's just unfucking believable to me. So he actually got hurt on his knee, but he won't need surgery, thankfully. Continuing on the Super Bowl, I mean, it's great that Cooper Kupp won it. I wouldn't say that he was necessarily undeserving, but I mean, just the havoc that Aaron Donald was causing. You know, I mean, they probably reset their downs. The Bengals do. It was a 4th and 1 that they had to have, obviously, late in the game. Maybe with like 70. Well, no, probably 40-ish seconds left. And on 4th and 1, Mixon actually comes uncovered on a slant route. Relatively, but Aaron Donald just gets there so quick that it's like it didn't even matter, you know what I mean? And it was still kind of a catchable ball. If Mixon reaches out for it, he probably would have got it, you know, to continue the drive. But so I mean, Aaron Donald should have been the MVP. I thought, you know, I guess you can go with the semantics of like, you know, Cooper Kupp caught the game-winning pass. Like, I guess that's true. But now I'm hearing that they have that kind of stuff like voted for and figured out by like the end of the 3rd quarter, which is crazy to me because it's like, dude, like, even if you had them waiting for an extra 2 or 3 minutes, like, they're all down on the field fucking celebrating any goddamn way. Like, why wouldn't you take out why would you not take the entire game into account? I guess, whatever, you know, I sit there with a lot of people, feeling like Aaron Donald should have caught the MVP for it, but still, Matt Stafford, you know, wins his first Super Bowl. You know, it's great when, you know, a guy like that who did not have any success really in Detroit. They did go to a few playoffs, a few tournaments, I guess, but you know, they would be one and done, or if it was like a play-in type of game, then they would lose that. So, you know, Matt Stafford at least gets to put the case up that, you know, it was much more Detroit than it was him, which I am in favor of. But I will also say, being a Packers fan, you know, I watch the Vikings games, I watch the Bears games, and I watch the Lions games whenever I can. And there were a lot of games that the Lions lost just because Matt Stafford threw the game away. You know what I mean? In a sense that, like, oh, he had it, but then he threw a pick, or there was a pick 6 to put it out of reach or something silly, or, you know, he got strip sacked or something like that, which I know is not entirely his fault, but, you know, it's still something that we kind of look at as like, you got to be able to know when to tuck it and hold on to it, and sometimes he doesn't have that. I mean, he threw 4 pick 6s this year. He had the most interceptions, you know, so I think we all agree that Matt Stafford, you know, he's got an arm, but his accuracy is a bit lacking, and his decision making can be porous at times. So of course, many people are talking about, well, you know, he's got his ring. Does that put him in Hall of Fame consideration? And I stand abjectly with Nick Wright and Richard Sherman, at least at this moment, right? Where, like, Richard tweeted out, like, you know, what's the fucking yardstick, right? The metric that we're using here, because he has 1 Pro Bowl, 1 Super Bowl victory that came without an MVP. And that's it, you know. So it's an unfortunate, just like, I mean, because there have been some, like I said, I think it's more Detroit's fault than it is Matt Stafford's fault, but they did also have some good crews. You know, it's not like he never had anybody playing around him. And he, you know, he had the most interceptions this year, right? He's got no All-Pros. He has no MVPs. He has never led the league in touchdown passes. He's never led the league in completion percentage or the fewest interceptions or anything like that. Like, you know, and he's been in, it's more than 10. I think this is his 13th season. So I don't know, you know. For me, it's like it's a resolute no, in the same way that Eli Manning is a resolute no. Like, just because you have a couple of rings doesn't put you in the fucking, you know. And so I was watching Nick Wright and Broussard, and I want to say Kevin Wildes, but he's really just there for funsies, you know, and I can appreciate that. He's a hilarious guy. But Broussard was like he's a good quarterback. And it's like, yep, this is the Hall of Fame that we're talking about. You know who's not in the Hall of Fame? You know, again, credit to Nick Wright. He put this list together, but I will second it. Patrick Willis, DeMarcus Ware, Andre Johnson, Torrey Holt, Devin Hester. Some of the best to ever do their thing. You know, like Devin Hester literally is the greatest returner of all time. And he's not in, you know. He got, well, I don't want to say snubbed necessarily. If he goes, you know, 3+ years longer without getting in, definitely call it a snub. But DeMarcus Ware, he was an unbelievable talent on the defensive line. He was unbelievable. You know, I don't know if necessarily he technically goes down as like a linebacker or I feel like they've come up with that, you know, whatever. Andre Johnson outright made quarterbacks look good around him. I mean, he made Matt Schaub look good some games, dude. Like, I'm just saying, like, Matt Schaub, I got nothing against the guy, but he was not a good quarterback. Fucking Torrey Holt, just a great, again, Devin had the greatest is not in there. So, you know, I'm you know, whatever, not that I'm losing sleep that people are saying, like, oh, this put Matt Stafford in the Hall of Fame, because he's a good quarterback, but it's, like, no, nobody puts him, rightfully so, in that conversation of, like, who are the great, just playing right now, who are the greatest right now? It's not, you might say that that's not fair, right? You know, Patrick Mahomes, maybe Aaron Rodgers, depending on whether or not he retires. We know that Tom Brady just retired, but still, right? You talk about Peyton Manning, you talk about Drew Brees, you talk about, really, those are the big five, I think, that Stafford competed against, you know? You never put him in there, right? I just, like, believe you, for anybody out there suggesting, like, hey, you know, Stafford was McVay's guy. Well, I mean, would he have been his guy if Rodgers was up for grabs? I don't think so. So, I guess that's where I sit on his Hall of Fame. You know, of course it's still, is wet, his cement is still wet. Who knows what could fucking happen. Hopefully he gets just a little bit strong. Like, you know, honestly, if he ends somewhere in, you know, call it the top 5 in yardage, which is fair, you know, I guess that he could. But, so speaking of Nick Wright and the guys on First Things First, if you watch that, then a little bit of a spoiler, I was actually going to compare, probably in a month or so, Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan, the battle of the Matts, I was going to call them, because, you know, they've both been to a Super Bowl. I think there are a lot of things that are comparable about them. They both played for some relatively poor teams. But look forward to that. I think it'll probably drop in around a month. But you know, we're done with this season. That's it. No more to really talk about. So what do we think is going to happen going forward? I think the most threatening teams next year, if I took 3 and 3, right, that are like realistically capable of appearing in the Super Bowl, if not winning it, I would say the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Titans are probably going to be still those top 3, you know, deadly teams. And then I will say the Niners and the Cowboys, Rams or Packers. It depends on whether or not Aaron Rodgers comes back, obviously. Yeah, and where he goes. I mean, if he goes to the Broncos actually have a pretty good core, I think. Sans a quarterback, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I thought he was pretty good in Minnesota, but he's just a guy that's been shipped around. He went so in 3 seasons, I think he's been to the Panthers and the Saints and the Broncos now, and I think that kind of speaks for itself. He just whatever he had before, he got injured pretty devastation. It was a pretty devastating injury before. I don't think he has it anymore. So, but that's probably all that they're lacking. But so, the Cowboys might be on the come up with their defense, but I don't know. It's really just a guess. So I don't know. I mean, I like where a lot of people are. The Chiefs are, for whatever reason, again they are the favorites, and I mean I think that if you kind of continue to step down the ladder, you should at least allow somebody else to be the. So I'm thinking actually it might be the Bills and the Niners next year in the Super Bowl, but of course I mean injuries happen. Who the fuck knows? It's hilariously fucking way too fucking early to start talking about this kind of shit. But in the interest of filling things up, this is what we sincerely kind of. You're talking about like the Niners were so good that their quarterback had to throw them out of it in the NFC Championship game, and the Bills lost on a coin toss. You know what I mean? I mean, to speak sincerely, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is. I don't think the Chiefs' defense would have come through against the Bills. And theoretically, I mean, put at least a half. I don't know. I'm not trying to dump on Jimmy G because I think he's a solid quarterback, but he's out there. I mean, had that last ditch attempt sort of at a play that I did hit his receiver, the running back, in the hands. But even still, I mean, he gets credited with an interception. And part of that kind of stuff is just, it is what it is. I mean, I hate to say it. So, you might, I know that I'm a Packers fan. So do kind of take that there is a little bit of a bias in with that. But, what happens if we bring Aaron Rodgers back, then that means Davante Adams has to go, sadly. So what I feel like that would be. I feel like that would just be if you let Davante Adams go, then a lot of that cap hit, isn't there. You keep quite a good nucleus because I think really with the big thing. I know the Packers only scored 10. Believe me, I was fucking there for that. It fucking sucked. But that defensive nucleus is probably very good. If they're holding, even though it's just the Rams, or even though it's just the Niners who were led by Jimmy Garoppolo, although it was only 13 points there, that's still something that you can at least kind of, build upon or hopefully carry throughout the next season. But again, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that it's entirely predicated on whether or not Aaron Rodgers comes back. If he walks, I've seen what Jordan Love can do. It's only been a couple of games. That's fair, but they were bad. And I don't. I mean, I wonder when. When would there be a turnaround if it's not this year? Because you can feel the team that goes. I felt that Aaron Rodgers' first year starting when he went 6-10, they weren't. It was a different feel because they weren't losing because Aaron Rodgers was a bad quarterback necessarily. I mean, he didn't play electrifyingly well, but he did good for. I'd call him a good starting quarterback, Where really it was like maybe he came up short when he had the ball last, or his defense let a field goal drive end up sealing the defeat. So, but this, I don't know. We had a good sample size against the Cowboys. Brett Favre's last year as a Packer, he bumped his elbow, so they pulled him out, and Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdowns and an interception This is like, you know, I don't know. I don't know where to place him. Because I feel like I'll take the Colin Cowherd approach and say I feel like we would have heard something. You know, the more that I hear about like, hey, what are they willing to do to keep Aaron Rodgers around? It sounds a lot more like they're trying to fucking throw the book at him. Whatever the hell it takes to keep him in Green Bay, they will do it. You know, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. Despite the clunker in Green Bay against San Francisco, he's still a fucking really goddamn good quarterback. He won his back-to-back MVPs. I mean, that's something to fucking hang your hat on, man. You know, I would have liked a Super Bowl a hell of a lot more than a couple of MVPs, but they're still pretty fucking good. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens, but I don't think they let Brett Favre walk. I mean, people were sincerely talking about Brett Favre as there were a couple of years there where it was like, holy shit, this guy just has it, and then guys like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning came around, and of course Joe Montana being 4-0 in the Super Bowl. Obviously, it was pretty damn good in its own right, but yeah. So, what else? What else is there really to talk about? This is the problem with the offseason. This is why I was going to talk about and I still will, but the battle of the Matts, Matt Ryan and his Falcons against Matt Stafford and his Lions. Because I think that there are a lot of similarities there. But I don't know, guys. I mean, it's a fucking, there was one whole game again that got played. I mean, if you watched the Super Bowl, you watched it. And if you didn't, then, you probably don't even give a shit, So I'm certain I'm not talking to anybody that I don't have any listeners like that. But I don't know. I guess we'll call this one a little bit early. Look forward to here in a few weeks to a month-ish to that Battle of the Mats. And hey, just because Stafford has a Super Bowl doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't take Matt Ryan. And just because Ryan has an MVP doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't take Stafford. So tune in for that. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at GB_D2D. And you can email me, give me some of your thoughts at GB-D2D at outlook.com. I readily await your intellectual thoughts on the NFL or anything, really. I mean, fuck, doesn't necessarily have to be constrained to that just because it isn't a football podcast. Until then, you guys take care.